Hi students. So this is an introduction to the next little bit that you're doing on your current topic on relationship between branches. And part of this we need to look at the EU. Might sound odd because we're in the process of leaving, but I guess we still haven't left. And also this is good to do because next year we cover the EU as part of our topic on regionalism under global politics. So that's a good heads up for that anyway. So I'm going to take you through this PowerPoint, which has all the tasks on that you need to do. So I'm going to whip through it and then you'll need to go back and do the tasks on your own. So first of all, what is the EU? Make sure that you know the countries that are part of it. And our starting point is, why was the EU created and how has it changed over time? The clue here is, of course, this picture at the end of World War II, and that's our context for the EU. There's a really nice little video here for you to watch, which sort of discusses the origins and gives the historical context of the early years. Britain had been part of Europe, part of that fighting which had taken place between all countries, not just actually the first 50 years of the century, the 20th century, but actually the whole millennium, or even earlier than that, 30 Years' War, 100 Years' War, Napoleonic Wars. European countries were very good at killing each other. So the EU was all part of a way of trying to stop that. And so it's interesting to see how it came about and how it developed and how it has emerged into this very sort of political as well as economic organisation. So watch the video and complete the tasks on page 37 to 39. There are some key terms that you definitely need to know. Make sure you've covered those. And coming from the video, you should have got the idea of what the key aims of the EU are. Again, not just about economics, but also about protecting rights, and also about the four freedoms, allowing EU citizens all kinds of rights, as well as trying to protect workers' rights and also having an economic union. So way beyond other regional organisations of the world in terms of its overall aims. Part of that means, of course, that we have to give up some of our sovereignty to the EU, which, of course, is one of the debates connected to Brexit, and we'll have to look at that as well. So what are the key institutions of the EU? A nice little questionnaire, which you might want to try and do. An overview of the institutions and how decisions are made, and some nice videos feeding into that. So watch these little short videos and make notes about the institutions on pages 40 to 42 of your workbook. Bear in mind this question all the time. Is there a democratic deficit in the EU? That's one of the big criticisms of the EU. So what do you think about that, having watched the videos? Part of that is also the role of MEPs and also the role of EU officials. Do they represent ordinary people in countries or not? Or are we being ruled by faceless bureaucrats from Europe, as has been the case that has been made in much of the UK press? How has the EU impacted on UK politics? This is the key thing. Now, that's not actually in your workbook, and it's not really very well done in your textbook either, but it is well done in the Pearson textbook, which you can find on the intranet under the heading Unit 2 chapters. So please use those pages to answer these questions and make notes under these headings. And really consider this, where has the EU had most impact on the UK? So that leads us, of course, through to the EU and Brexit. There's been a lot of hostility to the EU in the right-wing British press in particular. So that has changed people's perceptions because that hostility has been there for many years. So some interesting graphs here about perceptions that people have about, for instance, how much we spend on the EU or how much of our taxation goes to the EU compared to what the reality. But actually it's interesting to look at perceptions versus reality in a whole range of areas there. This graph, of course, shows that really there was no interest in the EU before the referendum. So how can we explain this massive interest in the EU since the referendum? There's a nice video here from a Labour MP, Anthony Barnett, on his views on why Brexit took place. Have a look at that for his perceptions, and then complete the tasks on page 43 to 46 of your workbook, where you'll have to do a lot of research on the reasons for and the impact on Brexit. Okay, enjoy.